Hi guys, welcome again. We'll talk about Git, GitHub, and Gitflow. This is really important when it comes to your programming life, your programming career. You will use Git a lot and GitHub, so it's important to learn this, and that's why we're learning before we even move on to the other lessons. So let's get into it. So what is Git? Git is an open source version control system. You might not know what that means right now. That's okay. So Git is a software that runs in your computer that keeps track of the changes that you do to your code, basically. You could also use Git in online. So you could use things like GitHub. So you could push your code there and it will keep track of the changes that's happening. Another thing you could do with the Git is if you make changes to your code and you want to change it back, you want to go back, you could revert back. You could change the changes you made and you could undo it. And if you're working with a team, that is important because let's say somebody pushes a code, somebody gives you a code, and that code messes up the code that you have. So, and then you could go back or you could merge. We will learn all that stuff in a minute. So another thing that's important to keep in mind when you're using Git is the terminal. The terminal looks scary. Believe me, I know how it looks because I've been there. I've been where you are. There was a time when I look at the terminal, I'm like, what in the world is going on? People just typing stuff on the terminal, and I don't understand what they're doing. So a lot of times people are scared of things they don't know, but you will learn, and the terminal will become your best friend. So the terminal, sometimes we call it the command line, sometimes we call it bash, git bash, shell, all those names. But basically it controls your computer. It's basically like a file explorer. And in Windows, the command prompt and the PowerShell are not actually terminals. In Mac, you have the terminal. And in the Windows, we will have something called git bash. We will use that. So there are commands that are already created for you, and there are phrases that you could use to change things in your computer by using the terminal. So these are basic commands that we could use to make changes to our file, send things to GitHub, revert back or copy things. So the first thing would be git init. Git init basically creates a new repository. That means it makes the files you have or the code you have, it adds it to the Git system. Another thing is a Git clone. Git clone basically means if you want to copy another repository from somewhere else or from GitHub. We also have a git add or git add dot. So git add basically means take the files you have and add them to the Git system, basically. Add them to the staging system. That means get them ready for committing or submitting the code. Git commit. So that's also, you do it after you say git add, and we'll see how that works. So git commit right here. Git commit means that you create a snapshot of the changes and you save it to the Git directory. So whatever changes you made, if you deleted something, if you added something, it will record that and then it will add it to the Git system. We also have Git status. You use Git status to know the status of your files. Are they in Git system? Are they not in the Git system? Are they submitted? What is the status? We have Git push. From basically the name, you push your code to another repository, to GitHub. Let's say you push your code. Basically, you take your code and you send it to a remote or local repository. Git pull is also the opposite of push, so it's like the door. So pull is you get code from somewhere else, from another repository. So if you want to pull that code to your local computer, that's what you use. A lot of times it merges everything, so make sure when you pull in something, you know what you're doing. What is GitHub? So I will show you how to use the Git and everything, but let's go through what GitHub is, because we did talk about what GitHub, we did mention it, we didn't talk about what it is. So GitHub is an online platform. It's like an online website. It's owned by a company, but the Git system but the Git system is open source. GitHub is owned by Microsoft. So GitHub is a platform that you could put your code and you could save your code, and then other people can collaborate and see your. GitHub has something called a repository. But that basically means, and sometimes people will say repo. So if you hear repo or repository, it means you create a space in GitHub that you could put your code. That's basically what it means. Also, there is a pull request or PR. You will hear a lot about the PR. PR means basically the pull request is if you want to take a code of your own and you want to make change to an existing code and you want to send that changes to the person who owns that code. So, and then I'll show you an example how pull request works. Let's talk about the Gitflow for Gabi School. So we have our own Gitflow. Gitflow basically means the way we do things, the way we send files and stuff, like the steps you're going to take. And these steps might not make sense to you right now, but when I show you the examples, it will make a little more sense. So in GitHub, so the website I was talking about, you fork the Gabi School project. Fork means you copy the code that we created in Gabi School and you save it in your own GitHub, your own account. So you just copy from us. So there is a button called fork. I'll show you. And then you add your group lead or your instructor as a collaborator. Means like that person is going to see the changes you made, and then you copy or you clone your forked version, the version that you forked from Gabi School. And then after that, you create a new branch by typing this command git checkout and then -p and then your first name and then your last name. First name dash last name. After that, you push your code by using this command git push -u origin and then your first name dash your last name. And then after that, you create a pull request and add your group lead or instructor as a reviewer. So this might seem very cryptic and very confusing, but when we go through it, you will understand what we mean. So let's get started and practice what we just talked about. So to get started, I have a Windows computer. So if you have a Windows computer, you go ahead and get Git Bash. Go to git-scm.com/downloads, and you'll see here you'll have different options. So if you have Windows, you could go ahead and download it. So once you download it, this is how it looks like. It's just this black screen. I zoomed in so you could see it. So here's where you run your commands. So it kind of looks scary, but I will make sure that you understand what you need to do. So to know where you are, the first thing you need to do when you open a terminal, and if you have Mac, you could use terminal. Just Google Mac terminal and you will see, you could find it. So the first thing you need to do is to know where you're at. So right now here, I see I'm in like the root directory. To know like what's in here, so where am I at? You will write ls. ls means list. So basically show me like what's in here. So right now, as you can see, I said ls and it basically showed me a bunch of stuff. So these are like the folders. We have a download folder and we have a document folder somewhere right here. So let's go to like pictures. So let's say, so if you want to move to another directory, you will say cd. cd stands for change a directory. So cd, and then you will name the directory. So we will name document. So you don't have to write the whole thing. Once you write enough for it to be unique, you could tap in your keyboard tab, and then it will fill out. It will continue and fill out. So and then you hit enter, and then now you are in the document. So if you you could say ls, and then it will show you what's in the document. There's a lot of stuff. Let's actually go back. So if you want to go back, you say cd and then two dots. So those two dots means just go back. So now we're back. Let's go to pictures, and then let's go to Gabi School. That's how you go into it. So right now we could go to cd to section 1, which is the one we're right now. And then section 1, you can say ls, and it will show you there is full-time and part-time. So we're going to the full-time for now. So cd to full-time, and then when you hit ls, it will show you week 1. So right now, let's just zoom out for a second. Let's say, so we could see the full directory, and like let's make it bigger. So we will say cd to week 1 at ls, and you see day 1, day 5, day 2, day 3. So let's cd to day 2, day 2. And actually it didn't cd because there is no lowercase day 2. So day 2. Oh, that's the thing. You can't give it a space. So if you want to give it a space, you have to do it the way it's doing here. As you can see, week 1, it gave the, I think it's a backward slash. So cd, and then you will say day, and then we say we do like this, and then day 2. Okay, so that took us to the day 2. Now we could say ls. I mean, this is all nested, but we're going to the test. So do we say test, and then it fills out for us. So now we're in the directory that we wanted. So that's a long route, but we're in that directory. So that's the directory we're gonna work on, and we're gonna paste things in. So we're gonna go to GitHub for a minute, and we will come back for the terminal, because we're going to put something in this file and show you guys how to do the Gitflow. So right now, this is my terminal, not terminal, this is my GitHub. GitHub looks like this. You go to github.com. This is where you will save all your code. This is where you will send all your code. This is where we will do review of your code. So almost every developer has a GitHub account. GitHub is free and it's owned by Microsoft. So you could push your code. So as you can see here, the main thing is, like right here, this graph, it shows your commits. It shows how much code you sent. So the more the color is full, the more you committed. So right now, as you can see here, 25 contributions. And if it's a lighter one, it's like 1 or 2 commits or contributions. So it's better always to have it filled out, but you can't do it 100%. It's better to like keep pushing code. A lot of times when you're trying to find a job, they look at your GitHub and they see how long have you been working. So for me, like if you go to 2019, as you can see, I started somewhere like early 2019 or mid 2019, and I committed a lot. So that's it's important to keep committing stuff, keep adding stuff to here. Another thing would be the repository. So repository is also here. You could check repository, your repository. You could check it here. As you can see, I have 134 repositories. That means 134 files or folders that I created, and they're here. So so you could create a new repository if you like. You could hit this plus or this new, and then it will create a new repository. So you could just name the repository. Sometimes it's called a repo, and then you can make it private or public. But most of the time, you will not create a repository. You will just copy it from our GitHub. We have a GitHub. So let's go to our GitHub right here, the Gabi School GitHub, and we will go with let's go with the responsive design. So this is the lesson we're gonna work with just for now for a test. So we're gonna click that. This means this repo is owned by Gabi School. So for you to take it and make changes, you have to fork it. So right here at the top, it says fork. So you click the fork. That means to make a copy of these files for me. So right now it will ask you, where do you want to take it? So I have different different organizations or pages in GitHub. So I'm gonna do it in my personal one. It's gonna take and copy everything. As you can see here, it says this was forked from Gabi School. And right now this code is mine. So right now it's I can make changes to it. Before we take this code to our computer, let's add collaborators. So this is the Gitflow basically. So once you do the fork, and then you go to settings, you go to manage access, and it will ask you for your password. And right here you will say invite collaborator. So you will write your group lead or your instructor's name here, whoever is helping you or managing your group. You write their name here or their email. So it has to come. It has to be like, so when you write, let's say, let me write like my name. Like I don't think it's gonna come up, but whenever you write a name, you will see the name here. So these are, I think, my friends or people who are following me. So you will type. So make sure you find the person here, and then you put them here. You send them an invite to manage this project with you, so they can basically help you and see your changes accept your changes or something like that. So if we go back to the code, and as you can see here, there is a option here. This option is a clone option. So this is where we copy the code to the computer. You will just copy this link. You could just right click and copy, or you could just click here, and then you will go to your you'll go to Git bash or terminal. Right now we're in this folder, and this folder is right here, this folder. So what are we gonna do is we're gonna say git clone. So that means we're copying the files from GitHub, and then we paste the link, the URL. And if we hit enter, it will go ahead and grab all the code from GitHub and put it in our computer. So right now it's just telling us it's cloning, it's copying, and it's done. So now if you go back to the folder here, as you can see, there is a new file. So we could cd into it. So we could just go into it. So we say responsive, and I hit tab every time I write something, so that it just goes in there. Now we're in the folder. The next thing about the Gitflow is that we change the main right here where it says main to our name. To do that, we have to say git checkout and b, then you type your first name and your last name. Actually, no quotation. So you type your first name, last name, like that. So make sure you write it like that. So now, as you can see, the main thing that is managing this repository is our name. So that's the branch basically. So the next thing we'll do is we'll just make changes to the repository. If you have a VS Code or Visual Studio Code, you could just type code dot, and it will open the editor. So now it'll just go ahead and find the editor and open it. It might not work in Mac, so just keep that in mind. Right now we don't have a lot of things to work with. So I'm just gonna make changes to the README. So I'm just gonna say here, I made changes to the README, and I'll save the change. So just hit this save. Now this means there is change. So if we go back to the terminal, you could also use your VS Code and click here terminal, new terminal, and it will go ahead and find your git bash right here. But we were using this, so we're just gonna go with this. So right now, if we say git status, as you can see here, it's telling us there is modification, something happened. So we have the README, there is change to the README. So we have to add to the Git system. We have to stage it. So to add it, we say git add dot. So dot means you could either say the file's name, or you could say dot. That means add every change to the stage, to the staging area of the Git. So when we say dot, it means everything. So usually just use dot, unless you want to write down the name of the file and say like README, so just dot is easier. So now the change is added. If we say git status, it's telling us that the changes to be committed. So we can commit, and it's staged now. It's in the stage status. So let's say git commit then m. So you have to write it like that, git commit -m, and then you say, okay, I made changes, and make sure you write the changes, the comment. This is comment, write it in quotation, otherwise you're gonna have a problem. So and here you'll write a descriptive message of what you changed. You could say, so I should have said something like I added text to the end of README file. So something like that. So make sure everything you write is descriptive, so that when you're working with team, it will show that message and they will know what change you made. So now if we say that and we say git status, it will show us that there is no changes that need to be committed. So everything's committed. Now the next thing we need to do is just send this change to GitHub. Right now, if we go to GitHub, there's nothing. So if we go here, there's nothing. You can see no changes, nothing. So if we go down all the way to the README, there are no changes. So we can say git push u origin. So you have to write it like that, and then you write your branch name, which is the run ali. If it's something else, then you write it. If it's main, master, whatever it is, you write it there. So this means send this code back to GitHub. If it's the first time of you pushing this code, it will pop up and it will tell you you have to log into your GitHub. So just make sure you have a GitHub account, and then you will be good. So now if we go back to GitHub, and we refresh, you will see the change. So we refresh and GitHub is telling us, hey, there is some changes that were made a minute ago. If we go you can't see it in here. The reason you cannot see it here is because this is the main branch. The main branch, we didn't do any change to the main branch. We did it to our branch. So there is a new branch called Duran Ali. And if we go here, as you can see here, there's a new branch. So now the next thing we need to do is you could click here, you could create a pull request. So if we click here and create a pull request, you could do it in different ways, but this is one way. Now it will show you how to create a pull request. So this is really important, especially if you're working with if you want your code to be reviewed, you have to make changes here. So the first thing we will do is we will change the base repository to your repository, so your main thing, not the school one. So this is the school one. So if you choose the school one, it will send your changes to the school file, so the school repository, and that means like we will not commit your changes, we will not know. So only change it to your own repository. Now when we do that, you could write something here, and then the very important thing would be add reviewer. So reviewer is the collaborator, the person, the group lead or the instructor. Is if they accept your invite, that you will see them here. So you will see them here, you choose their name, and then you will add them as a reviewer. And then the last thing you need to do is you will create a pull request. Pull request means I made changes to this code, please look at it and see, review it, and then commit it to the main branch. So you never merge. So we'll go to it. So let's just say create a pull request, and it will evaluate the code you sent. If the code you sent has conflict with the main code, like the main branch, it will say, hey, there is a conflict. You have to resolve this conflict before you merge. And here you never touch this one. If you're a student, this is only for your group lead or your instructor. So this means the code was approved. That means the code was good and you did your work. So now should be merged to the main branch. So never ever merge your own branch. It's a bad practice. Even if you're doing work by yourself, it's good to like have somebody else look at your code and commit it and merge it. So the reason for that is because always you will be working with team, with people, and whatever change you merge to the main branch will change the main branch. Basically, you will mess up if your code is not good. So make sure you don't merge your own pull requests. So we will not merge our own pull requests. So that's pretty much it. That's the process for committing your code. That's the process of working on your code. So make sure you do your changes, everything, and then regularly every time you make changes. Let's say you finished a section or a page or something like that, or a problem, you go ahead and like commit your code. You send it, and then you go back and keep working it, and then you commit it, and then you keep working. So just keep going like that, and you will be good. The more you practice this, the easier it gets. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. And that's how you do Git, GitHub, and Gitflow. Thank you. See you soon.